Greetings, friends, and welcome to yet another episode of the Going Rogue Gaming Podcast, a roguelike podcast where we talk about roguelike games. The Grog Pod. I am your host, a stack of villager cards in a trench coat, Scott Berger, and I'm joined by my rogues gallery of co-hosts as always.
I'm the lowbrow warrior with a giant club ready to beat you, Will Wright.
And I am Colin Smith, a large stack of apples.
Today we're talking about Stacklands, the game made by 4 developers from, I looked at the pronunciation guide for this too. Utrecht, is that passing everyone's Netherlands?
I thought it was
yeah,
Sockpop.
Definitely.
Yeah. Utrecht, Netherlands. Developed by a group of 4 guys that call themselves the Sockpop Collective.
They're from Utrecht. I see.
Yes. And from what I can tell about this developer, they develop a lot of games. They develop a whole lot of games. I don't know how super deep any of their games are, except for this one that we're talking about today. But we'll get into it. Stacklands, released April 8th, 2022. You can find it on Steam and itch.io, or itch.io, I guess people call it. This one, I think people are going to raise eyebrows at. This rolls in at the 56th most popular roguelike on Steam. Yep, there goes Will's eyebrows, as predicted. 15,168 total reviews, and the 97th percentile within the whole distribution. Colin, unfortunately, you have too many cards in your hand, and you have to sell them. And by sell them, I mean you have to describe this game in 1 sentence.
It is a game where you stack up cards, in quotes, to make things slowly over time. Resource gathering, building game. Not really a roguelike, comma.
comma, run on.
Well, so I might fight you a little bit about roguelike versus non-roguelike on this one, but yeah, like this is a game that, is it fair to call this a survival game, like a survival farming game?
That's fair.
Is it?
Yeah,
I feel like it fits. It's like halfway between a survival farming game and one of the like idle games. Like did you ever play that game where you like make all of the paper clips and you turn the entire universe into paper clips? It reminded me a little bit of that, but with like more of a manual dexterity aspect of it. There's a lot of like build your engine aspect of it. I feel like it was an engine building game.
Yeah, for Stacklands
that had a survival aspect to it as well.
Yeah. In this game, I think this game is super interesting on multiple levels for me anyway, because I think I'm the stickler of our group, where anytime like people are super hyped up to play like survival games like The Forest and or Don't Starve, I'm kind of like, but somehow I've been like weirdly engrossed by this game. I think I might be like the weird reverse outlier for this one versus those others. And so describing Stacklands, it's a very cute, very much card game. You boot it up, and you're greeted with a booster pack, I think is your first item. And all you can do is you click on it.
Yeah.
It gives you your starting cards that really kind of set the table, as it were, for what's to come. And that is cards. You got all kinds of things. I think the first things that kind of pop out from that first booster pack are like something like a tree, a berry bush, just sort of like basic starting resources that you use to like put like villager card onto wood to create stick kind of thing. And for me, this is the kind of stuff that sort of like drives me up a wall with like your standard survival crafting games. But there's something about like about this that feels different enough that I'm kind of vibing with it pretty hard. Did you guys have any like immediate reactions to like this sort of style of gameplay?
I'll let Will go.
Well, Colin and I had a quick chat about this, and I think this is like last week, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was something along the lines of this didn't feel like a card game at all, which is funny because you were just saying it's very much a card game.
I mean, that's the only thing in the game is cards.
Right, but the cards didn't feel like they could have been tokens. They could have been just been little like pieces on a board. Like the fact that it was a card and you could set it on top of another card didn't really do much for me. It could have also just been, here's a circle like token, and you're going to take your little like, your little piece and put it on top of it, and then you're going to watch a progress bar. I mean, like the card element is just like, it lends to Stacklands, which I think it's reminiscent of Flatlands. Does that sound about right? Or like, I don't know, there's a book called Flatlands, Flatland. Do you
well, that's one about like two-dimensional beings or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, for some reason, like it felt like it was somewhat related in the sense that it was like, oh yeah, we have two like flat universes, and like the universe is a universe of cards, and it's like a very much, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, this universe, but it does within within itself. But no, I thought it was a lot of watching progress bars, and I think it's funny that you were so into this one, or like, this is the first time hearing of it. Whereas, like I love Don't Starve. I did love The Forest. I loved a lot of these survival crafting, but like those games, there's tension. There's constant tension in the universe, and if you're not doing your build order right, then you can like get punished. Whereas this game is like, oh, well, I guess dude died to starvation, and I gotta wait another like 5 minutes for another dude to get created. Let me just watch that progress bar. And it just didn't feel like that tension wasn't as real for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely not a tense game. I found it, I liked it. I found it to be a Zen type of game where you just kind of like, you're not feeling stressed pretty much ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess sometimes, if you're fighting stuff, there's like a spike of tension, but most of the time it's just like casually, slowly building your way up towards a more efficient village. But and trying to like move your cards around, and like I feel like the further on in the game, the less it felt like specifically card-based anything. The most card-driven aspect of it was the literal booster packs. They called them card packs, and it's the randomly generated items that you get out of them, and sometimes you get the rare thing, and sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you just get another rock or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was like a very card-themed thing, but pretty much the goal of the game for my playthrough was to make it so that I never have to buy those anymore. You try and get consistent sources of resources and get it to the point where those are a bad way of getting anything. Like there's nothing in them that's good enough that you keep buying those things.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't shuffle your cards ever.
So it's a game of self-reliance for you?
So
it's a game of self-reliance then, and the attempt to become self-reliant and not be dependent on these packs.
I mean, like in a lot of the survival farming type games, it's you're trying to gain resources and you're trying to build something that's like a self-producing thing, and you're not like hunting and gathering. I think that you could have, like, I enjoyed it. I think I could have enjoyed it the same amount if it was tokens, or if it was a 3D thing where you're living on a little island. I don't think it would have fundamentally changed the gameplay in a lot of ways. So I feel like they started off real strong on the like, this is cards and this is stacks of cards, but I don't think that it really did anything with that in terms of like changing the gameplay radically. They didn't even have very many card-based puns. Like, come on.
Right. Actually, call it to your point. Like, I'm just imagining, like, if this game was a 3D game and there was like literally like a little forest, a little 3D icon for a forest, and you said like, there's a little village, and you're like, your dude just runs out and goes and collects things in the forest and runs back. That would have been the same sort of progress bar as like putting the card on top of another card and watching that progress bar. Advance as well. I mean, this is like the same concept, right? I mean, I guess it's interesting in that it's different from that norm because we've seen that a lot.
There was a lot more. The other unique thing about the card stuff is there was a lot more location management, because you could move the cards around on this large board, and eventually you do start running out of space, and you're kind of like pushing the cards around to make sure you have space and all of that, which was novel, but I don't think it was very rewarding. Like, it felt like it was interesting at first, and then you would get it all perfectly set up, and then some card would like pop out on top of it, and it would mess up all of your perfect organization. And then like it was fun to do it the first time, and the second time it was less fun, and the third time it was a chore.
And I think that like that, I agree that it was like frustrating when you would like open up a booster pack and like a chicken would jump out. In a very traditional chicken fashion, it's just like running around your little playmat, like uncontrolled or unhoused, I guess. And I thought that like I thought it was like kind of funny a little bit that like the little chicken card was just like jumping around and like pooping out eggs every so often. I'm like, no, like that fits the personality of a chicken, I feel like, in card form. And I think that like that helps to incentivize like, oh, I need to figure out a way to like pen in these animals that I have that are just running amok all over my little card village here. Because otherwise, yeah, like they're going to mess up the placement of my wood pile and then like the stick pile that I have right next to it, and like all of my neat little organization of stuff. But also, like throughout the course of the game, you will be invaded by little strange portal cards that a little red card will pop up on your playmat, and then it'll say, uh-oh, this doesn't seem good. And the progress bar will like tick down, and at the end of that, monsters will pop out of it, and they will like hop around your little village in a similar chicken fashion to like hunt down your villagers. And
yeah,
like I agree that like, oh my god, you know, it's annoying that like my village is getting pushed around and stuff, but I think that I like that it does, even that it is annoying, because I think that it fits, like it adds something to like tension about like, no, my Legos are all getting blown up by this, you know, this monster force here. But what's also funny is like I wound up like I'm also like kind of bad at this game. I think I'm getting better, but I think I may have like lost all of my villagers like 5 or 6 times. So for me, it's felt very roguey in that sense. But like monsters, you know, you're fighting off like a wave of monsters. They spawn into your base, and I got creative by creating. I had like this enormous stack of carrots, like I don't know, like 30 or 40 like carrots long, just this huge stack. And I just like started creating like walls of carrots to like keep the monster force from like getting close to my villagers, because I was waiting for some kind of like sword or like item to finish crafting on the other side of the table.
Wait,
I'm
can
like,
they not push their way through the big stack of carrots?
They can, but it slows them down some.
Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't.
And so like I don't think
That's
this
like
was the intention.
That's a good emergent behavior.
Yeah, like I don't think this was the intended behavior of the system. But
carrot wall.
Yeah, but like I was like, okay, like this is like a fun little thing that's fallen out of like this wacky setup that we have here. So with my big wall of carrots, I was finally able to like get the magic sword crafted that I was able to put on my villagers, and then now I have like a good fighting force to fend off these goblins. But it was like a real like clock ticking down moment where I'm like, you know, I've been like beaten up by these goblins like twice now. It's not going to happen again. I'm going to do everything I can to get in their way to do this. There's other ways that you can cheese it too, but I thought that was at least a little funny that way.
Yeah, I lost my first village, and then there was like one point early on that I almost lost my second village, but then after a while I got to the point where I'm not losing. I could choose to enter the last boss fight before I'm ready, but I don't think that there's anything that's coming out of the portals that could hurt me. And they get better over time, but I'm getting proportionally more better than those are. And I didn't beat the end boss just because I was like, I see where this is going. It's just going to take me like 45 minutes more of like grinding to make sure I have all the right equipment and like grow some more people and blah blah blah. And I cheated and looked at what the ending was to figure out what was going on. And it's just like, yeah, the combat's not engaging enough for me to feel like I had already optimized a lot of my village already. Like that was the fun part. Is like I did enjoy this game. I enjoyed the figuring out how to minimize that randomness and the movement. Like you say, like, oh, I loved watching chickens. It's like I killed every animal that popped out of my path immediately because they moved my cards around and that ruined my perfection. And I built a farming system on the one side and I had a stack of apples through the roof because like that was a contained way of growing stuff. And in the earlier game before you could set up pastures and stuff to do animal farming.
Wow, you played very, very different. You would have hated, I think I showed you this at one point. I took a screenshot, but you would have hated my gameplay because you're talking about the chickens bouncing all over the place. Well, I'll tell you what also the chickens do. They give you exponential growth because the more chickens you have, the more eggs they have. You put the more eggs under more chickens and you get more chickens. And so I had about half of my game board, like 28 chickens running around, just scattering everywhere.
Well, you also didn't learn, you're like, were using the wrong booster packs and you never got the like thing to let you smelt iron.
Well, yeah, because I thought the armory was the thing that might have like eventually get like for some reason I put like armory, smeltery, like all that stuff like under one like sort of like I had no idea which pack to get the like the smelting stuff from. So I exhausted all of the armory first. So I never had any challenges with like combat. I'm just like, yeah, all my dudes have all this armor and weapons. You want to fuck with me? All right. Well, and so it just felt like it was super.
But you couldn't make any of it. Like I looked at your board
every time you beat someone or every time something comes out and you kill it or you get something, and also like out of the packs you get something. So everyone was just like fully equipped.
Right, but you weren't getting it through. You could have not opened a single one of those weapon packs, and you've gotten all the weapons from fighting off goblins and whatnot.
Well, yeah, that's probably true, but I got both, because I got the pack and so it was just like I had like a stacks of all my weapons and gear, and so as I learned. The best strategy, and this is one of my kind of like annoyances about this game, is that the best strategy is the one that's the most annoying because it takes the most clicks, is to have all your guys be naked. And then once you see the threat, because the gameplay is essentially rock, paper, scissors. You've got archery, you've got melee, and you've got wizardry, and they're all rock, paper, scissors with each other. So if you have something that's a melee come out, you're like, oh, great. Well, I'm just going to get archers. And so you take your most powerful archery stuff, you put it on your dudes that are available, and then you attack it. And that's like 30 clicks. And it's just like, oh my God. I'm always pausing the game, making all these clicks, unpausing, and it's just like, yeah, that's optimal, but wasn't fun. Yeah. And I couldn't stand not being optimal, in a sense.
Yeah, I think that this game is not really an optimizer game.
Did you pause it?
Like, oh yeah, I paused it, but
I was pausing every half second. It felt like every notification, everything that happened, I'd be like, "What's going on? I need to."
I'll lay it out for you. I didn't really realize it was a rock paper scissors thing until you told me. I had played it for like 10 hours. And I was like, I don't know, I'll just throw more guys at them, and eventually they win.
A perfectly valid strategy.
Like I just kind of was like, yeah, I just hang out, let my village grow slowly, build my little like ore engine down in the corner, and my apple engine up in the other corner. And grow up for a while, and like I like watching the progress bars go up. I have played like a cookie clicker type game where it's literally the whole game is just watch bar go up, get different thing that makes bar go up faster, and get satisfaction from bar go up.
I mean, that's Factorio in a sense, but it's just like this is a very
this is a little less industrial than
much
Factorio.
Less, yes.
Yeah,
but it does have that element of the thing pops out, and it can pop out if you put things in the right place into the next thing, and that's like the most industrialized you can get.
I mean, I had it basically so I only had to do every once in a while. I would go and grab like the weird like flint that comes out of the rock mine instead of rock sometimes, and that like started cluttering it up if I didn't like take care of it. But eventually I had it so just like the cards would pop from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. But so I'm gonna say I don't think that this is a roguelike game.
Me either.
Like, I think
He's
that
not.
even if you like, so even if it was more difficult and we were doing multiple runs of it,
Mhm.
the runs are the same.
Yeah.
There's no randomization of the board. There's the randomization of what you get in the card packs, but they're cheap enough that you can run through it again, and you're expected to get everything from them pretty quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really disagree with that specifically. And I was trying to like, and I think that like where I was coming down with like, oh, it feels roguelikey to me was like the gameplay loop of A, the fact that I was bad and I was dying a whole bunch at the start, but B, that you have like a decent level of like meta progression. So in this game, you have like there's like a little pop-up menu off to the side, and you have two tabs on it with quests and ideas. And ideas are basically like, oh, here's like you've unlocked the recipe to craft this house, or like here's how to make cooked meat or a coin chest or something. Like here's how you build out this thing. And I feel like that's like the most roguey element of this game to some degree of like, okay, like here's my meta progression. Now I know how to make the sword. So the next time, like if I do fuck up and die, then like, oh, like I know exactly how to shortcut to like go and get that sword and like go and beat the goblins and like be better the next time around. I think after like the third or fourth run that I've started, I'm still on the same run now, and I'm like crossing that threshold of like, okay, yeah, I'm snowballing and I really can't be stopped at this point. Where yeah, like to your point, like it kind of stops being a roguelike game in that sense. And yeah, like every run will be the same where you're like, okay, I've got to go from farming to like building a stable portal so I can go and like grind through the dark forest and get rewards from that and magic dust and blah 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 and all that.
Well, let me pose a question to you.
Mhm.
Is Age of Empires a roguelike game?
No.
Why not? You are gaining, you're doing runs of the game.
Uh-huh.
It's a randomized map. You're gathering resources and you're going towards some sort of end game.
Is Age of Empires have a randomized map?
Age of Empires 2, the multiplayer is like semi-randomized maps.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
Or Civ 5 or any of the Civilization games that falls under that same sort of paradigm, right?
Sure. I'll not answer your question and fire back at you with a different question.
Very well.
How does this game compare to Agricola? Colin, you've played Agricola before, right?
Yeah, the board game.
Yeah. It's very so Will, you probably haven't played Agricola.
No, I haven't.
It is a very crunchy multiplayer board game, but I guess it can be played solitaire, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's as good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure that there's single player rules for it, but yeah.
But it's similar, right? In the sense that like you have it's very card driven. Maybe not run based necessarily, but you know, you have like villagers trying to keep your villagers alive, and I forget the scoring mechanism in Agricola specifically, but I guess it's more about like resource based than fighting monsters and killing goblins and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like so I too have thought about like what is it that like this didn't feel like a roguelike game to me, and I did have a little bit of like, why doesn't it feel like that to me? And I think it's because assuming it was harder, like if I had a harder time with it and I did 10 runs before I felt like I beat it, I don't think that those 10 runs would feel substantially different from each other.
Right.
Like you'd end up with like my goal would be to have the exact same build each time or to optimize towards a build. So Will talked about Factorio before, and I think that's like Factorio, you can like literally copy blueprints from an old base, and every like you might be iterating on like what the best way to build this factory is, but that's iterations of like your own internal design, not of the game world. You're not being given different opportunities, you're being given different resources. Like if you take something like Stacklands could be a roguelike game if it was like, and in this game you just won't have berries,
Yeah.
Like
Where you have
you've
like
rolled out the non-berry island, or this game you're gonna have only rabbits and no chickens, and so your experience would be different. You'd have to like build out a different economy because you lacked certain resources or something like that.
So different synergistic archetypes is like what I'm looking for in a roguelike. And if it doesn't have that, it's not a roguelike in my opinion.
Well, I mean, like, to split hairs, like if we wanted a data-driven approach, my data set says that this game is like only 6% of the Steam tags come out to something that are roguelike in nature, which I feel like that sounds about right. Where like more things that you would associate that are standards of the genre, like your Hades, your Binding of Isaacs, or Cogmines, you know, very kind of different game flows. Like those are more kind of like in the 15 to 20%, and that kind of feels right for those kinds of games. This being like 6% on that very, you know, it's so this game is a card battler management survival game with like just like a dash, like a little
right. Yeah. So like it's I would say for me, if you had to be like, is this game a roguelike game? Yes or no, I would say no. But it's definitely more of a roguelike game than
Super Mario.
or even
like
Agricola.
Skyrim.
Yeah. Like Agricola, clearly not a roguelike, but like I feel like if you had a gun to my head and said like between like a digitized version of Agricola versus Stacklands, which one's the roguelike? Like I guess I would have to say Stacklands, but again, like I also don't know that it really matters at this point, because like for what it's worth, like games that it's a big spectrum, right? It's like with shooter games, you know, which shooter game is like the closest to Doom? Do you guys remember like the whole like fervent craze with like games being called Doom likes back in the 90s?
I mean, vaguely, but I feel like I've read more about it than experienced it, but
we're like, oh, this game is not a Doom like, it's a shooter game. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Like, or when we were in high school, it's like it's the Halo killer. Like, this is the new Halo. I mean, that was definitely a thing for a while. Like, is this the first person shooter game?
Yeah. So Stacklands, I think like the quest system in this game is very interesting to me, because it doesn't. So in one of your like your little sidebar menu thing, you open up the quest tab and there's lots of question marks there to start. I think this is another kind of element of like the roguey nature to it, of like exploring what those things are, and like, oh, well, like what the hell, you know, you have some like hints sprinkled throughout of like explore the dark forest, like there's a dark forest in this game, like build a stable portal, like there's portals, like where am I portaling to? There's like a sense of, I think, mystery to it, that as you are building out your village and finding those cards and fighting monsters to get those cards, it's basically going to be the same experience every time. But I feel like that first time that you go through, you're going through those quests and like unlocking those things of like, grow a berry bush. I'm like, well, like how the hell do I do that? You know, that kind of process of unlocking those things, that meta progression step does feel pretty roguey to me.
So for me, it wasn't a meta progression though. It was just a regular progression. Like I unlocked almost everything in my first playthrough. And I died because I was like, I wonder what happens if you put this golden chalice in the temple. And it's like, and I like some pop-up appears. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then like the devil appears or whatever, and just like absolutely murders everyone, like not even close. But like I built that way before I should have. Like I hadn't unlocked a lot of stuff, but I enjoyed that progression. But I didn't get that sense of truly like a meta progression. I got it as a sense of like, here's some quest lines that are halfway between quests and hints on how you should be playing the game, up to up to the end game of it, where you kind of understand how new things are generated and new ideas. Because eventually you can just like buy new ideas and they'll just like pop out recipes.
Yeah.
When you're just like swimming in money.
I do
Like-
like the concept where like if you have like a gold chest, you can just drag it onto like your little university building.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, it'll generate an idea for you. Like there's a lot of little ideas like that in this game that just, like you said, in a very like Zen-like chill. It's a chillax game. It's a very chillax card management game where things like that, like, you know, hey, university, I'm going to pay you some money, give me an idea that I haven't discovered yet, or like, you know, and the ideas are the things that that are, yeah, like your little crafting recipes. Like, oh, I haven't discovered this crafting recipe before, that looks interesting. Oh, I have all the resources to build it, I'll try that. And oh, like it's unlocked this kind of aspect of the tech tree for me. Like those are like the little charm elements that I'm like, you know, it feels like a nice little warm blanket and like a mug of cocoa to me.
Scott, have you played or heard of Dwarf Romantic?
I have heard of it.
Hey, this is a G-rated.
This is
podcast.
absolutely the most G-rated game. It's like build a
'Cause-
beautiful landscape
Yeah.
with like little houses and cute little cartoony trees and
And you have like little hexes, right? Like
yeah,
little
you build
Settlers of
hexes.
Catan kind of things.
Yeah, I'm looking at now. I did not play it for very long. I played for 45 minutes, so it didn't catch my, like the gameplay didn't like catch me immediately, and I just kind of haven't gone back to it. But I really like the aesthetic of it, and I'm just thinking about. I think that this would have been a better game if they didn't go with a card theme. If they just been like, what if we just make like a pretty little game with hexes and little building tiles and
but then it looked like all the other ones. Like honestly, this is his only differentiator is the fact that it is a card game or quote unquote card game. And so I think they did it right because otherwise it just falls into that general boring genre, or what I consider like another one of those city making games that is just like all the others. I
just want there to be good city making games.
I know, don't we all? Don't we all? Yes.
See, that's the thing. I am a sucker.
I'm chasing that dream too, man.
Are like one thing that I was like debating on putting on the candidacy list for this podcast is have you what is it? It's killing me that I can't remember the name of it. The Beaver game, the Beaver Colony Management Sim game.
Oh right,
yeah, I've done that one. Timberland or Timber.
Yeah, that's it.
Timberborn.
Timberland.
I had that like when it was like deeply early access. I'm like very into it. I basically was like, yes, I want this to be Dwarf Fortress, but with beavers instead of dwarves, like little beavers of industry. And it wasn't quite that when I played it. I've kind of kept tabs on it. It's getting closer.
Yeah,
they're adding more stuff, and you're able to build more stuff now. But it's kind of like what I wish Dwarf Fortress looks like in terms of like how you deal with 3D things. But
I guess I'll maybe also name drop while we're thinking about city or like village management like games, but on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Still pretty chill though. Frostpunk, I would imagine, might be something in that same vein. Not nearly as stress-free as Stacklands, but I think part of the Sockpop Collective, I'm just like scrolling through their filmography here.
They've got like 100 games.
Yeah, like as far as I can tell, I think their goal is as a group of game devs is to make 100 games. And then I want to say I was reading something about how like they start with like, okay, we're going to build 100 game prototypes, and like the ones that are interesting or fun for us will like continue supporting and like make them more feature rich. I feel like Stacklands is like maybe their most recent one, and they've released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 games since then. But Stacklands like may have been a victim of its own success, where A, it's super cheap. This is like a $5 game, but B, like it's like more than like 3 times as popular as the next game that they have developed.
Yeah, so that it's like, okay, so this studio just does a lot of like game jam things.
Mhm.
Like I could see this. This feels like a very, very fleshed out game jam game.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what if village building game but cards? And they just ran with it for a while and took it to its like most full conclusion. And since it's cards, it's like, I imagine a pretty simple game to like get a prototype up and like work your way through to an end game type thing. And there you have it. You've got your card game. You don't have to worry about graphics. You don't have to worry about like 3D animation. Really, the card is just bouncing around, but it's like mostly static image.
I think this game more well. I'll shill for the Sockpop Collective a little bit here because they have I think it's like a $3 Patreon where like you sub to their Patreon for $3 and then you get access to like their whole 100-game catalog. I would be more inclined to do that if like, and again, I don't know how deep any of these games are, or if like any of them are as polished or as interesting to me as Stacklands. But I think for like $3, it's probably like easy enough to just like drop that and be like, this one looks interesting. Maybe I'll try this. If I didn't have like 10,000 other games to be playing simultaneously. But I think Stacklands might like have escaped their orbit a little bit, like in a good way. Like maybe like more successful than they had anticipated. And I think that like what Stacklands maybe needs most is mod support.
Yeah. That actually, I could imagine it being a good platform for a similar genre of game. I mean, you could put so many more cards in there.
Yeah.
Like there's just having them make different things out of a card, like bar go up for a different thing, is pretty easy for like me to design. Like if they gave me all the tools, like I could think about it from like a gameplay perspective. And I'm sure Will could add like 10 stats on, you know, this beats this, or this does like damage over time, or it's rock, paper, scissors, but there's 5 different things. And so it's like you get do some weird synergy things where you get legendary armor sets or something.
Where you're not just waiting for the 2 sides to gradually whittle down and to be only one.
You know, I'll defend the combat system a little bit because I was I sent a horde of ninjas through the portal to the Dark Forest, and like I was like ready for revenge time because I'm like, you know, these guys have just been ragdolling me the whole time. I finally figured out how to make ninjas and like iron shields for them and everything. So I had like this entire stack of like decked out ninjas to like go in, and they were just like ninja starring everything left and right. It felt very satisfying. But like did either of you notice the very effective like arrows pointing back and forth
right away?
I figured as much.
Not really, into my own chagrin.
But
I mean, I saw that it happened. I just was like, whatever, and I never bothered to like keep track of what was happening.
And then you get hit a magic person, and the magic person messed you up because those are all classified as archers.
I just
You're
did.
ninjas.
Are they?
I just did them.
Ninjas are archers.
You know, just an even mix.
Yeah, even so they technically, just so you all know, like it isn't actually just watching 2 sides whittle down. You see their side, and you know they can attack straight across when they have even amounts, or they can attack like adjacent if they are uneven. And so you have to just calibrate it such that all of your dudes that tend to be better against melee or whatever tend to be fighting the thing that they're against. And so you can move your guys around, do it during the battle. And so that's how you optimize gameplay. But even that isn't very satisfying for me.
I mean, I got a little bit of satisfaction of like moving the characters around a little bit so that like that, you know, I was matching the sort of distribution of like, oh, they have like all their like really hard hitting guys on this one side. I'll put all of my hard hitting guys on that side to match them, making sure that like to like minimize those very effective arrows like back and forth. I felt like there was just enough cognitive load from the combat that it didn't like it felt right for the game's kind of pace and theme. And like it wasn't too much, it wasn't too little, it's just the right amount for what it was going for. But yeah, I could see like mod support for this. Like the Stacklands feels very much like a great card platform
Yeah.
for other stuff. And like the base game of Stacklands is great. I like it a lot. But like I think like Colin, you've played a lot more Tabletop Simulator than I have.
Yeah.
But like how like to me Tabletop Simulator is like somewhat frustrating with like how the cards move around. It doesn't feel very tactile.
It's very finicky.
Yeah. Whereas like this, like functionally, like visually, looks exactly like Tabletop Simulator.
The physics of the cards bouncing around was very smooth. Like it never did things that I didn't expect. Sometimes it did things that I found annoying, like this card moved and it bumped this card and it bumped this card, and I was like, but it was always like I could see a very clear chain of like why they all moved, like the physics of the cards moving around and all that stuff. It was very smooth to like grab stuff. I think that you could build a different game, or not even a different game. You could build you could turn this game into a more true roguelike, where you did have different paths you could go down. So there's a whole second half of this game that we haven't talked about at all, where you send your dudes to an island and you basically start the game over again with slightly different resources, and you eventually get the ability to take your villagers back and forth. I did a little bit of that, and I was like, this is just the same game again with very slightly different things. But you could have a path like that where you're picking up your stuff every once in a while and you're moving on to something else, and you're sending out something to get resources and trading back and forth, or something along those lines. And I don't think it would be, you could make a mod for it pretty easily with just changing values of the systems that they already have in place.
I suppose. I don't know. I've got 9.2 hours into this game. I lost. I think I thought I was gonna beat the dark forest or whatever. I thought I was fighting the witch nest, but I like miscalculated, like that I was actually on turn 9 instead of 10, and so I sent the wrong mix of dudes. They all got wiped. I'm just like, I can't be bothered to watch all those progress bars to regenerate, and that was the end for me. So I don't know. Did you? Like, Scott, did you finish the game? I got 9.2 hours into it, and that was pretty much. I'm good. I don't want any mods. I'm done with it for me. But that's
I think I've only put maybe like 5 or 6 hours into it so far. But like Colin said, like for me, it's been very much a like wind down for the day kind of game. Like, after dinner, evening news is on. Like I'll put like half-assedly like play some Stacklands and watch little progress bars go by, and like, oh, there's a portal, I gotta go beat up the portal guys, and then like I get like super excited into it. But no, I haven't gotten to the point of so I built a temple. I haven't gotten the goblet for the temple to get like one of the main bosses yet, but I'm on, I think, the last stage of the dark forest, and I think I'm still trying to figure out the like the villager management, like HP sequence of like, you send your villagers into the thing, they get like brutalized down to like 5 hit points out of 20 or something. Like, okay, like I'll swap the gear out to my fresh guys and let the other ones kind of like regen for a few turns, and then send those guys back into the portal for the next wave. I think that's where I'm at right now, and I'm still like relatively engaged by the process. But yeah, I think like what Colin's saying about how you basically kind of like do this same sort of theme. I do want to like point out that like at some point you get like, what are they, like destination cards or something? There's like a mountain, there's a graveyard,
it's like 7 or so.
There's like these different like biome cards, I guess, that you put a villager on to like explore, and like they will like shoot out like, oh, they found a rock, or they found like some armor, or they found a gold, or they encountered a skeleton. Like I kind of liked that mechanic. Like I thought that was pretty fun, or at least like the first few times that I've seen it so far. Yeah, I don't know that I have like enough motivation to like see this game to the end of like the island stage specifically. I do see a lot of like pictures of people's bases from like the Stacklands subreddit or on their Discord of like, they have like there's a lot more kind of like almost Factorio level management things where
Yeah,
you
they
can
get the cranes and the glue and
Yeah.
weird stuff.
And I don't know if I really want to go that deep. I might go as far as like beating like the demon lord of like the main village kind of scenario. And I think that might be as far as I take it. But I'm intrigued to get that far. And yeah, I think like so far for me it's been a relatively chill process to do so.
I played it for like 4 hours in a row one day, so it can't be that bad. Like it engaged me enough that I was like, I did like watching those progress bars go up, and I did like the feeling of like I like engine building, and I think that it's a simple engine builder, but it was a pretty smooth. It was a little slower than I would have liked, but it was a pretty smooth engine build up for the beginning part, especially once you get into like the mid game. I felt like I had a good time like trying to figure out how to build a Factorio factory in a system that's not meant to be that. And I think that's, but it like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it was a Zen build up your little base, and eventually you get to fight something at the end.
It's like a Factorio game for like, and I mean this in a good way, like middle schoolers or little kids, where it's like, low violent, but like creative and like fun and cute enough that like, you're not building flamethrowers to like massacre like billions of bugs and destroy.
I'm already engineering things at work. I don't like to come home I don't always like to come home and play a thing that's actually harder engineering in Factorio than what I'm doing for money. Sometimes it's nice to come back and just be like, hey, it's like my day job, but easy and just peaceful, and I don't have to worry about messing stuff up. I just, can build my little farm, build my stacks of apples, feed all my little villagers, and go fight some goblins.
Also, just as a recommendation, like, and I want to plug this too, because I've got 95, I think, hours into this game, and I thought it was like similar to what you guys are talking about into this game about to plug.
I was like, wait a minute, Stacklands Pro over here.
Medieval Dynasty. If you want like a chill game where it is like minor sort of connecting things and like little like factorialization of things, and it's the 3D sort of like version of a village builder. I thought that game was really chill and fun, so might check it out. I don't know, Colin, I think you didn't actually play it, or did you?
I have not played it.
Okay. I think
it's on my list of like,
it's not rated very high, but
I should play when I get around to it.
Should we go ahead and rate this game?
Yeah, let's move on to rankings. I'll start first. I really liked Stacklands, or at least what I've played of it so far. I think for me, this is my new number 3 game, just edging out Invisible Ink and just behind Binding of Isaac. It has that like it's definitely hooked me more than Invisible Ink does. I think like production value wise, Invisible Ink is a much better and like much like fully featured game, but like getting into that like flow state of like, oh, I can't wait to see what like this thing does, or like it's like such an interesting and different experience in a venue that I've seen before, but like just the way that it's kind of executed and its charm has really kind of stuck with me. So for me, it's number 3 behind Binding of Isaac and ahead of Invisible Ink.
I guess I'll go ahead and jump in. I see that Colin's just now filling in his score. So I give it a 6.5 out of 10, which with the games we've played so far, we're up to 12. We got a dozen games under our hat so far, but with these 12 games, that puts it at number 4 behind number 1's Invisible, and then I guess I have a tie for FTL and Binding of Isaac Rebirth for number 2, and 2 and 3, I guess. So decent game for what we played. I think it was worth about the 9 hours I put into it. Like I had it was engaging, but now I kind of got it pretty quick, I think, relative to other games that have, I like a 20-hour game. I think should be a good baseline. I say that, but then I think about the Stanley Parable and I think, well, that's not true. So it's a fine game. It's a fine game.
I laugh because after this whole episode, in the actual ranking of games, my ranking is lower than Will's, which is not what I would have thought. But I think that's just because my average ranking of all the other games is higher. This is my 5 out of 12 game, right behind Din's Curse, which is the Diablo-y type one.
Wow.
And right ahead of Pineapple Smash Crew, which was another kind of like Zen flow state game that you guys, that I liked more than you guys, but
I'll still go to bat for Pineapple Smash Crew. I think
I had a great 3 hours playing that game. I deeply enjoyed them. I don't know if it's like a great game, but I think like this is right above. I'd say this game falls in solidly above my threshold of games that I liked. Like I would say, yeah. If someone said, "Hey, should I get this game?" I'd be like, "Yeah, you'll probably like it." If you're looking at it and wondering if you'll like it, yes, probably you will. I think it minus the card theme, it does what it says it is. It's build a little village out of cards. It did that, and it was an enjoyable experience to do it.
Yeah,
I agree. My threshold's 6 out of 10. Like if anything's a 5 or below, 5 that just don't play, but 6.5, that's in the okay. I can recommend this. And then the other 2 games I think were 7.5s or something or thereabouts. I don't know, an 8 for Invisible. So pretty good.
Well, you can find all of those detailed statistics on our handy dandy website, grogpod.zone. You can follow us on Mastodon. We got a new Mastodon follower, by the way. It's happening. The snowball is happening. You all laughed. You doubted. Elon's kingdom is grumbling, one follower at a time.
What manner of beast is it? Is it like is it a smaller mastodon that's following us? Is it like what's the little like scrabbling creature from Ice Age? We're gonna have a string of little saber-toothed tigers following us.
Uncertain, but but if you want to send an email into the show and have us read it out, you can reach out to us at grogpodzone@gmail.com. We have to figure out what our next episode here is.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if Colin wants to flip his mega coin again, or me rolling my dice. I got my dice box out just in case, but that coin is just it looks like a Soviet war medal that just doesn't have a ribbon attached to it.
Yeah. All right. So we got one side, we got the front of an airplane, and on the back side we have a turbine engine. So that's fun, I guess. So I think what did we narrow it down?
Well, yeah. So our randomizer shot out Desktop Dungeons, Black Book, and Risk of Rain 1. But I think we, like, in our deliberations, we wound up, like, kept trying to hype up, I think we've, like, hyped up Cogmind, like, for 2 or 3 episodes now. So we're like, okay, well, we got to at least give it a shot, and we'll put it into the roguelike-y nature of the coin flip method. But I think we'll keep Black Book in the backlog for the moment, and we're going to have a coin flip off between Risk of Rain 1 or Cogmind. Do we...
Come on, Cogmind. Come on.
Which you're crazy because, like, yeah.
I'm gonna say Risk of Rain is airplane cockpit and Cogmind is turbine engine.
Come on, cockpit.
Okay, here comes the flip. There it goes.
Cogmind.
Cogmind.
Yes. Thank God.
Oh wait, actually now I forget. Which one did I say?
You say cockpit.
Cockpit was Cogmind?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What? Why would you do that to me? Wait a minute. No, that's we got. What is this?
Oh no! Will has to play one of the greatest roguelike games of all time now.
I played it. It's a terrible game. It's one of the worst games of all time.
Risk of Rain it is.
Risk
How
of
many
Rain
hours do I
1.
have to put into this?
I don't
You have to
know.
put in 55,000 hours.
You put 5 into the. I don't know if I can do 5. I can put like maybe a couple.
Well, you can put however many hours you want, and it can just be the Scott and Colin show talking about
Yes.
a fun side scroller. You can talk about
Side scrollers.
You know, like this might be an impetus for us to try to get Will to like play it with like. Colin, do you think Risk of Rain 1 is good with local multiplayer, or is it better solo?
Oh, I've never played it with multiplayer.
I don't know if it's worth trying, or if that would be a better experience.
We could try it out.
But yeah, like I mean, we do have the option of like local multiplayer also, and like if an in-person multiplayer experience is better than online or whatever. I think the online for Risk of Rain 1 is supposed to be kind of janky, which kind of wouldn't surprise me. But
My computer is very immobile. I'm not sure a local party.
well,
works well
so
for
I
it.
I tested this at the board game con over the weekend, where I brought my Steam Deck and 4 Xbox controllers, and it works. Believe it or not,
Oh.
it does work. And I think
So we
Risk
all
of Rain
just-
1 is probably low resource enough to like big screen it.
Yeah, play it through Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Wait,
You'll have to-
now that you're saying this, like,
Uh-huh.
I know we've just decided, but Streets of Rogue, is that one still going to be pushed
That-
off into the? Because
yeah,
that's a
like-
similar sort of thing that I haven't played, and that might actually be good.
Streets of Rogue is I think that game is also very good.
But is it decided? It sounds like you've got the tone of it's decided.
Well,
I think we're decided on
we'll
Risk of
sign
Rain
off.
1.
We'll sign off with Risk of Rain, and if we come in next episode with a different game, I would be shocked. But I want to play Risk of Rain. I liked it.
Yeah. I think Risk
Will,
of Rain.
you go find your own game, and you can play it. And just we have like a special Will segment where you talk
I just rant about the how side scrollers are the worst way of having fun ever. That sounds great.
Sure.
I love that. Yeah.
Welcome to the Slay the Spire corner again with Will Wright, episode 2795.
Today we're going to be exploring the archetype of yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Is it or is it not a block card?
Indeed.
Shiv. All Shiv deck.
Oh Lord, all claw. No. All right.
Yeah, that's going to do it for our Stacklands episode / half the time us talking about Risk of Rain 1 and or Cogmine. Join us next time. We will definitely be talking about Risk of Rain 1, much to Will's malignment. He's going to come around to it. If we can convince Will to not hate the game, I think it'll count as a moral victory. But
I'm going to try to. I'm going to put myself in the shoes of some unfortunate soul like yourself and try and enjoy it, and we'll see what happens.
And yeah, and we'll try and dive into the depths of Will's mind to understand why he hates side scrollers.
All right.
But until then.
deep dive. Yep. Until then, see you next time.